When you hear real estate investing, most people think, Joe, they think about rentals, right? You got to go out there and be a landlord and buy rental properties. I'm here with my good friend Joe, and today we're going to be discussing the comparison between not only rentals, but there's actually another way, which is note investing, right? Most people think, I need to become a real estate investor. I need to go out and buy residential homes and turn them into rental properties, become a landlord. And let's discuss that. What does that look like versus an alternative? That is not the only way. Even though it is very lucrative, you can do really well. We have rentals in our portfolio still. Let's talk about the other option. What is that other option, Joe?
Well, another option would be note investing.
There's more, but...
And there are a number of ways to look at note investing. We have another video where we talk about what note investing is, what is a note, what does it look like, so on and so forth. Let's compare that with rental investing. With rental investing, what most people assume is, I have this property, I'm going to rent it out, collect rental income every month, and that's true. The part that they often neglect is the fact that there are expenses that have to be deducted from that rental income. So to talk about a few, if you have a mortgage on that property, you've got to pay the mortgage. So that's a deduction from the rental income. There will be tax and insurance that's paid, the rental income. If you're wise, you will have a budget set aside for upkeep. One way around that would be to purchase a homeowner's
home warranty.
A home warranty, thank you. And that will help cover some of the major expenses that may come up. But even that will be a monthly expense to pay that home warranty fee or payment. Those are the main things that you have to consider. There'll be monthly expenses that hit every month. Many people really forget about both the homeowner's insurance and the tax. And they get to January the next year and, oh crap, I owe $3,000 in tax. And if they haven't set it aside,
that's exactly right. You know, one thing that is actually funny with rental properties, when you look at it, for a lot of times, you guys may see some gurus or some people doing these videos or advertisement where, you know, you have somebody talking about, hey, go out and buy 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rental properties, 10 rental properties, and then they have a picture of somebody relaxing on the beach, right? That's really not the case. If you go out and you go buy rental properties and that's all you do, you'll can become broke, because what you think you're gonna be making, as Joe was talking about, there's a lot of expenses that you don't think about, and especially a lot of landlords are dealing with in this current market is increased property taxes and increased insurance, right? Insurance has gone up significantly. I know that for people even with apartment complexes, condos, there's a lot of insurances that are not even renewing. They're pulling out of certain markets or are skyrocketing their insurance costs, where somebody may had a small, let's say 8 unit, 10 unit, 12 unit, and their insurance previously might have been, I don't know, $1,500, a couple $1,000, and now that's gone significantly to $10,000, $15,000 in certain markets. So it's interesting. I think you have to look at it as, why am I buying rental properties, right? I think that's the biggest question is, what is your strategy? What are you looking to accomplish? What are you looking to do? Because rental properties, the way that I see it, is more of a security to hedge against inflation and have something that, you know, we know periodically and just over time, real estate and single family homes over time go up.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit more. I'll play devil's advocate with that.
Right.
If the value of the property goes up, 2 other things are going to go up that are expenses.
Property tax?
We've talked about them. Property tax will go up.
Insurance
will go up with the value of the property. Let's talk about a big positive for owning a rental. Let's say you own a rental for 20 years and it's appreciated a bit over that 20 years. And let's say it started at $100,000. It appreciates, I don't know, let's say up to $300,000 over 20 years. You've made $200,000 minus expenses over that 20 years. Let's compare that with a note. You have a note that has an unpaid balance of $100,000. It's 10% note. Over 20 years, you'll probably have made, I don't know, $180,000 over that 20 years. So that's a comparison.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to think about when you're comparing those two things and examples, you're looking at it is most people I know, when they're buying a few rentals, a lot of people are self-managing. They're managing their own rentals. There's a lot more time from what I've experienced that goes into owning those rentals versus owning those notes, right?
Right. Now you can choose to incur yet another expense by hiring a
property management.
Right. And you can do that, and the going rate is between 9 and 12 or 13% of your monthly income for that. Even with that, though, you end up paying for repairs.
Correct.
They just manage things for you.
Correct.
So you've still got to have your repair budget.
I know somebody's watching this video and they're thinking, hey, but what about Airbnb? What about midterm rentals? Well, yes, you can make a lot more when you're doing that, but what are you also doing? You're adding additional responsibilities, additional management, time to be able to do that and offset that. And sometimes, unfortunately, in this current market, there's people that bought rental properties with the strategy of doing short-term Airbnb type rentals, and they don't cash flow for a regular long-term family. And there's a lot of people in different markets and cities with regulations and changes that they're no longer able to have that Airbnb or whatever that case may be. So when you're looking at it, you don't want to just look at one way. I always tell people, if you're buying a rental property, you always want to make sure that it cash flows through a long-term family, lease versus getting creative. Obviously, that's always good when you can do that, but you always want to fall back, because if that doesn't work, then you're in trouble.
Yep. I need to correct a number that I gave about 5 minutes ago. 20 years at 10% on $100,000, you would have made $111,000 profit on that $100,000.
So you'd
compare that against the appreciation of your rental property. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing to think about, even if you have a property management company, that doesn't mean you're not going to get any phone calls. You're still going to get those phone calls usually from that property management to make those decisions, right?
Right.
So let's use the example of you just went out to a 5-week vacation, and let's say that you had a handful of rental properties versus a handful of notes, which I already know, we both know that you have a handful of notes. Now, where you were out there, did you get any phone calls related to the notes?
No, I got a few emails, and the emails said, so-and-so paid, so-and-so paid, so-and-so paid, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Now let's think about if you had a handful of rentals, right? Even if you had a property management company and say, hey, well, I'm going to hire a property management company. Now you're not really making any money. But if you had a property management company, you might have had a phone call here and there and saying, hey, this person's water heater is not working. Do you want to try to see if we can repair it, or do you want to buy a new one? Those are kind of phone calls you may be getting, right? Hey, the HVAC's not functioning. The HVAC person is suggesting we do this, or possibly do this other option. What are you going to do, right?
So a horror story comes to mind. Thanksgiving a few years ago, I get a call Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, wow.
My garbage disposal is broken. doofus daughter had put a whole bunch of potato peels down it and literally broke the garbage disposal. What am I going to do about it on Thanksgiving Day?
That's when you own that rental property in Plano, right?
Yes, that's true. It turned out okay.
What did you end up doing?
Well, the lady that was renting the property said, kind of off the cuff, if I had a replacement, I could put it in for you. About an hour later, she had a replacement, and I told her, here's the replacement. How about I give you $300 that I would have given to the plumber, and you just replace it and we'll call it good.
She was beyond happy.
She was happy, I was happy. Odd solution, but we thought out of the box.
Yeah. And those are just the things that, you have to think about which side of the coin do you want to be at as an investor, or you want to transition, right? And that's the way that the banks think, right? That's why the banks, what do they have in their portfolio? They have more, well, not more, they probably have no or very few actual physical, they own real estate. It's all notes, they own debt, right? And that's what I constantly tell and teach, right? Is you want to become the bank. You want to own debt. You want to start originating. And I know for me, like some of the goals I just think about, I'm like, hey, I want to have $1 million more in debt where people owe me, and what is that going to pay me over the course of 10, 15, 20 years?
Let's look at it from a slightly different perspective. You've all heard the story of the goose that laid the golden egg. Let's say you have a factory that makes gooses. That's what banks are. Each goose that they create in their factory is going to lay 360 golden eggs over the life of that loan. The average bank will have hundreds, if not thousands, of gold egg laying geese, and that's how they make their money.
Right.
They create the goose and they let the goose go off and do something. They only get involved to send out the monthly invoice statement, which is all automated.
Right.
Or if the payor has a problem, they have a collections department and a set of attorneys.
So you're telling me the bank is not getting the calls on Thanksgiving Day? Hey, my garbage disposal went out?
Not typically.
No. Hey, my toilet, stuff is backed up. You don't get those type of phone calls. You're simply the bank, right? And that's why, for the most part, especially if you speak to my wife, she enjoys and loves notes the most, because we've dealt with some of those, headaches that you are going to be dealing with as a landlord. And every single person that I've spoken to that has had rental properties for an extended period of time has those headaches and gets tired of them. They become what we call a burnout landlord.
Well, they also deal with two other things. One is what happens when they quit paying rent.
Right.
You got to go through much of the same process that you would if somebody quits paying their mortgage.
Right.
Very similar pathway to correct the situation one way or another. The second thing that you have to deal with as a landlord is that tenant isn't going to be there forever. You'll have periods of vacancy that you have to budget for, and you may have a lot of repair costs when they leave, especially if they leave on unfriendly terms. You're going to have a lot of repair costs in that case. So
yeah, since you're talking about that, one thing that I don't really see as many people talking about, that's currently happening right now, especially places like, I think California, where they are imposing a rent control, right? There's a lot of states and a lot of politics going on right now where they're trying to have rent control to where, now the landlords are they're not making money, they got to write checks. They're losing money. It's just crazy to think about. I think more than ever, there's a lot of burnout landlords. And if you're watching this video and you are a burnout landlord and you're wanting to find a better way to where you can actually generate cash flow, make money, or start allocating some of the portfolio that you have, make sure to reach out to us, send us a message, post a comment, go to our website, and submit a form where we can get in touch with you. But there's a lot of opportunity. We've had a conversation. I mean, I know we have a stack. This is just a stack of a note portfolio that we're actually looking at, 12 notes, I believe, from a person that's been in the real estate space for about 45 years. And I guess it took him 45 years to get sick and tired of rental properties and just getting out of the space, and notes. He just wants to get out completely and I guess just go to the Bahamas or something. But yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty right now for I think landlords, right? And I think people are sensing that and experiencing that.
So another analogy is those of you who are involved in the restaurant industry. If you own a restaurant, you don't ever get a vacation. You're tied to the restaurant or you don't get paid. If you're a landlord and you can't leave town for a week, you're tied in a similar way.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, the one thing is obviously the reason I still believe rentals are important, on the flip side is obviously for a lot of people, sometimes you get lucky and you buy at the right time and you get crazy appreciation, right, that you may not get obviously with notes. The reason people enjoy notes is obviously it's consistent and predictable, right? They know what they're gonna get. And with rental properties, it's kind of like, pulling out a deck of cards and sometimes you don't know what you're gonna draw. But where I was going to with rental properties is a lot of people got lucky where they bought rental properties, say, during COVID in 2020 or 2019, and within 2 years, some of those properties almost even doubled, right? So those are some of the things and the reasons why people like rental properties. And also, one thing that we didn't talk about is they do have a pretty significant tax benefit. There is a tax benefit when you own rental properties. So for a lot of people, sometimes it's not necessarily that they're sometimes looking to even make money, it's that they're looking to offset their taxes whenever they're buying rental properties. So I think we'll go ahead and sum up this video on rentals versus notes. We obviously are leaning a little bit more and a little bit more biased on notes just because we enjoy that the most. Like we said, it's predictable, it's consistent, and we can really go out and do whatever it is that we want, right? Whether you want to pursue a passion, whether you want to quit your W-2, whether you want to go on vacation. In my opinion, having a note portfolio is where you're going to be able to do that versus having a rental portfolio. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. If you like more, we are going to be having some free classes and where we talk about notes and we deep dive into different topics. I know we're going to be going into talking about partials, and if you don't have a significant amount of money and you want to start maybe dipping your toe in the water or just getting started, we'll be talking about that on the next video.
Okay.